Following on from the last video, it was time to get the other side of the body kit installed. Again, drilling out the holes to 6mm and using a 4mm riv nut in there. I did put some paint around the holes that I drilled, just a bit of etch primer, and then around the riv nut as well, just dip them in it, just to seal up the holes. The plan is to paint under the arches again, just with a brush and a bit of diamond white, once the body kit's fitted, just to cover all the end of the nuts up, and then also to push some wax oil down the inners of the sill. Again, it was a case of just test fitting the body kit fits and lines up nicely before putting some 20mm 3M tape on the inside of it and permanently fixing it on there. So I won't go over too much of the attaching of the body kit to the car, as I covered a lot of that in the first video that I did. This front panel, when I did the repairing to it, was probably the most twisted of them all. I'll drop some photos on here. So I did try to straighten it all out as much as I can, but as you'll see at that front corner where it just attaches to the front of the ring behind the bumper, it's a bit bent and twisted there. So I ended up just clamping, I'll just use a door hinge to just try and hold it back into place. It's a bit of a strange plastic that Ford used to make this body kit, but I did find that Innertech Top Fix plastic glue worked really well to repair the damaged sections. So if anybody is repairing it, that's certainly one to try and use. It's quite expensive and it sets really quick, and you go through a lot of nozzles with it all, but it's pretty good stuff. So then on to the final part of the body kit, which was the front panel. This was also in a really bad state where the car had sunk into the ground and it had broken and twisted it in various different places. Behind where the towing eye cover goes was all snapped off, so that's all been repaired now. Got a towing eye cover off eBay, just a fiberglass Kevlar reinforced one. I think it was about 50 quid, something like that. Didn't fit too bad, took a little bit of body work to get it right, and then that's just bolted back in place so it can be removed. Again, I just used some riv nuts on the front panel, M5s this time, just so it can be taken on and off. So I'd finished getting the front panel loosely put in place, but I really need to get the garage doors open to finish that off. So I thought I'd make a start on the front calipers that I bought. So these are off a Mark III Mondeo, which I think is 2000 to 2007. So got these off eBay for 30 quid, which I thought was a bargain. Nothing seems seized up on them. Piston moved freely. There was a slight break in one of the seals, but everything moved nice and easily. So just a case of getting them stripped down and cleaned up. There was a little bit of brake fluid left in there, so I just pushed the piston all the way back in there and drained that away, and then gave them a blast with some WD-40 degreaser. Absolutely love that stuff. Then just repeated the same process on the second caliper. Then it was a case of just getting the piston out of the brake caliper. So what I did is just dropped the bleed nipple back in again, tightened that up, and then used some low pressure compressed air with a rag, and my fingers well clear, and just applied some low pressure, and it just pushes the piston out of the seal with a satisfying pop. The piston itself seems in quite good condition, so they can be reused, and then just again repeat the same process on the second caliper. So that's the brakes fully stripped down and ready for cleaning. Everything seems pretty good condition with no major corrosion, just a bit of surface rust and dirt. So on to cleaning them up. So the first thing I did was get the seals out. They seem to be perfectly intact, but since we're going to get a whole new rebuild kit, it makes sense to renew them. I've only ever done one set of calipers before, and that was on my VW camper. And these was a little bit different as they just sat in a groove in the caliper and then sat in a groove on the piston, as where these seem to have a metal band around them. So as I say, new to me this one, so I just managed to get in between the gap and just pop them out with a flathead screwdriver. Then just remove the inner seal with a little hook just to get that out of the way. So then I just pop the calipers and the brackets in the Aqua Blaster to give them a bit of a clean up. It gets quite dirty in there, but it does make life a lot easier when you're cleaning up these sorts of bits.
So that was about 30 minutes of aqua blasting. Looks a bit better so far, still needs some more, but it does struggle with big chunks of rust, so knock them off with a wire brush and a bit of a chisel, then put it back in there and carry on. So that's after about an hour of blasting them. There's a few more bits to just tidy up. Give them a quick run over with some sandpaper just at the front, just to smooth them off a little bit. The carriers blasted up a little bit, so just give them a bit more of a clean up.
So give everything a good clean with some panel wipe, and then just got some Halford's etching primer that I'm just going to give a light dusting with, just to give the paint something to stick to and a little bit of rust protection as well. So when masking up these parts, I find the expanding earbuds really useful for threads and bolt holes. You know, just put them in, let them expand, and then just cut them to size. Makes it a lot easier than trying to get masking tape in awkward places. So I gave up trying to get masking tape in the piston hole. So I decided I'd use the old seal and mask that up and then put that in place. That seemed to do the trick and make life considerably more easier. Then just to finish up the masking, I did the carriers, just covered up any mating surfaces. And then I went round the edges of the masking tape with a file. Seems a nice way to get the masking cut perfectly. And then I've just used the earbuds in the threads and the slider holes just to stop any paint going in there. They just expand nicely and nice simple way of masking up. So now everything's all masked up. Give them a quick final clean over with some panel wipe and then a very light coating of etch primer. So I left the calipers to dry overnight after a few coats and then got the paint gun out. This is the gun that I used to actually paint the car with. So it's a 1.4 size nozzle, and then I run it about 40 psi. So I've got some black engine and caliper paint that I use for painting the engine block with. So I just mix that to about 10% cellulose thinners. So I have a load of the plastic measured mixing cups left over from when I did the car. So come in really handy for getting the measurements right. When I did the body kit and I had to put some elasticator in there, just made it really useful for getting everything right and keeping the consistency the same as well. So this is my make do painting area. Just keeps overspray from going everywhere, and I've got a few fans up in the background just to help remove some of the overspray. I just have a piece of spray booth body shop filter on the back of there just to filter out any nasties as much as I can so that stops the neighbours from complaining. But not a bad finish, as I say, it's just the brakes. They're hardly going to be seen behind the wheels, but it's not looking too bad. So after the paint had dried, I like to give them a final good cleaning over. One thing that I do find with blasting with the Aqua Blaster and glass bead is you will forever find glass bead in places. So what I basically do is after I've finished Aqua Blasting is I'll dunk them in water several times, and in between that I'll dry them out as well. So these have been cleaned multiple times now, just to make sure, but one last clean certainly won't hurt. Got the brake rebuild kit again from eBay. Seems to come with absolutely everything that you need. The seals, the inner seal, the piston seal, the slider seals, some silicone grease, and some adhesive backing plates, which I'm not going to lie, I'm not quite sure what they're for unless they're to go on the back of the brake pads when they're in. A little bit unsure on that, so if anybody knows, let me know. But everything seems to line up and fit right. Get these installed. One thing that, as I said, I've never fitted seals to a brake caliper where they're actually like a metal insert. They seemed really tight when putting these in, and obviously it's rubber around the edge, so putting them in the vise or squashing them with the grips is a bit of a no-go, and there's no way to use a hammer and punch. So what I ended up doing was using the old seal to sit on top of it, and then I used the vise to push the old seal into the new seal, and that got it in pretty much all the way. It was a bit tight, it was a bit awkward, but finally made it there. Now, I could have made a full movie over the amount of time it actually took me to get the piston past the seal, and I've seen lots of different tricks online of people using cable ties and compressed air to get the seal over the piston. So the method that I finally went with was some silicone grease on the piston itself. Make sure that plenty gets onto the rubber seal, and then I literally just pushed compressed air through to expand the seal over the piston. Took quite some time to get it right, but eventually it did go over. Once the piston was in place, I just worked the piston in and out several times just to get the seal seated correctly all the way around so it folds back nicely when the piston's pushed all the way back in. As I say, it's a really fiddly job and it took a lot of patience. Eventually, it was worth it. So started to attach the hub to the suspension just so I can mock up the brakes. I do need to make a space of where the caliper carrier goes. So I thought I'll get it all mocked up so I can see exactly what I need to do. The discs that I'm using are off a Focus ST170, so the 300mm, which is a reasonable upgrade from I think the originals were 250-ish. So it's not a bad upgrade. I got them from your car parts for about 52 quid. Just solid but vented discs, which will be fine. I'm only going to run standard, maybe slightly above standard power. The first thing that I noticed when I started putting everything together was the bolt holes in the hub need to be 12mm for the M12 bolts, as where the Series 1 uses M10s. So need to take it all off again, put it on the bench and drill them out. Should really have thought about just mocking it up on the bench first, but I got a little bit ahead of myself. Couldn't find a 12mm drill bit to save my life, so I used a stepper drill bit and just basically ran it through one side, spun the hub around, and then ran it back through the other side. And luckily enough, the hub's shallow enough to not cause any step in the middle. So stepper drill bits are actually great. They went through it like butter. So back on the car with it all. It's just got some rough measurements. Gonna have to get some slightly different sized M12 bolts, about 40mm of thread on those, and then got a rough size of about 16mm for the spacer. So just for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut a little bit of copper tube to the right size and just use that just to gap it out, just to make sure that I've got enough clearance either side for the disc. And then we'll look at getting some steel ordered and cut and make some proper spacers for it. So I used a bit of M12 threaded bar and just dropped a nut on the end just so I could get the right size for the bolts that I'm going to need when I put it together on the final build. Just make sure the clearance is fine on the disc. Then I got the caliper dropped on there as well, just to see how that would look. Everything seems to fit nicely and look the part. Got then a little bit carried away and thought I'd see how make sure the wheels got enough clearance. Bit of a schoolboy over here, as you'll see. Completely forgot it was still on the frame, and the wheel, of course, wouldn't go on. much to my disappointment, as I was quite hoping to see how it would all look, but it was one of those moments. So to end on a happy note, I did manage to at least get the car pulled out the garage for the first time since it's been painted. So it's the first time it's seen daylight in about 4 years. Just so I could have an actual look around it in natural light. So that was quite a nice achievement, I guess. It'd be nice to have it on four wheels and start get the doors finished and the wiring done. So lots of things to do. So many hours in a day, but I'll keep plodding on. Thank you for everybody who liked and watched the video. Honestly, I expected about three people watching it, so over 4,000 viewed and lots of subscribers, so absolutely amazing. So thank you to everybody.